Hi and welcome. My name is Ryan O'Connell and I'll be your Azure trainer during this live video. In this live video we're going to talk about Azure AD registering a custom domain name and why we would want to do this. When you create your Azure tenant for the very first time, your Azure tenant will automatically give you a domain name .onmicrosoft.com, and that could be, for example, ryan.o'connell@gmail on Microsoft.com, Billy Bob Burke's Bikes on Microsoft.com, whatever you initially set up your tenant with. You can't change or delete this domain name, but you can add your organization names. Adding custom domains helps you to create users that you are familiar with, such as ryan@rocketlabs.com, ryan@spacex.com, ryan@microsoft.com. Registering a domain name, what you need to know, these are some important things. You can register as many domain names as you want. However, each domain name that you register will get its own TXT record from Azure AD or MX record. The propagation from your domain register to Azure AD can be instantaneous, or it can take up to 72 hours depending on your domain register. Your domain register is the person that hosts your domain, like GoDaddy, Free Parking, Domains R Us, for example. Also remember, if you enter the wrong or duplicate information by mistake, you'll have to wait for the TTL to time out. That can be around 60 minutes before you can try again. The person who creates the tenant is automatically the global administrator for that tenant. So they can make a wide range of changes. They have full access to all the resources in your Azure tenant. What is the purpose of a domain name? Domain names serve to identify internet resources such as computers, networks, and services with text-based labels that is easier to memorize than a numerical address used in the internet protocols. For example, rocketlab.com might have an IP address of 225.198.6.72.20. Now that's hard to remember, but everybody can remember rocketlabs.com. So that's the reason why domain names use text-based labels. Again, another thing to remember, a custom domain name is a unique branded name that identifies your website or your organization. Right, let's go ahead and do this live. I'm going to switch over to the Azure portal and we're going to go ahead and register a live custom domain name from scratch. Some of you may know how to do this, some of you may not, but let's go ahead and get cracking. Hi, as you can see, I've gone ahead and logged into the Microsoft Azure portal and I've presented with my home page, and I'm going to scroll down to Active Directory. When I click on Active Directory, I can see my .onMicrosoft domain name here. If I click on domain names, you'll notice I only have one domain name here. So I'm going to go ahead and add my custom domain name. I'm going to go ahead and paste my custom domain name in there, and I'm going to click Add Domain. This is going to add my domain. Now I need to add some DNS records on my domain name hosting provider's website. For example, that may be Free Parking, GoDaddy, Domains R Us, whoever is hosting your domain. We can either add a text record or an MX record. I'm going to go ahead and use a text record to verify my domain. I'm going to go ahead and log into my domain. My domain name is with GoDaddy. I've logged in, I've scrolled down to DNS management, and here's my domain name. Obviously in DNS management I've selected my correct domain name. I'm going to go ahead here and add that record for Azure. So I'm going to go ahead and select a text record. So I'm going to bounce back to Azure. I'm going to get the alias or host name. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste that in there. I'm going to bounce back again and get that unique destination or points to address for Azure. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that into there. That is that text value. I'm going to go ahead in my DNS settings and I'm going to select custom, and I'm going to make sure it's set to 3600. That is to match the TTL here. You don't have to do that, but I like to do that anyway. I like to keep everything the same if I can. And I'm going to go ahead and save that text record. And as you can see, it's saved that Azure text record. And I know it's an Azure text record because it says MS equals MS, and it's got these numbers here. Now, this can take anywhere from 5 minutes to a couple of hours to register. From my experience, it doesn't really take 72 hours. It could be a lot quicker. So I'm going to bounce back into my Azure portal, and I'm going to go ahead and click the verify button. And this is going to verify my domain. And if you notice, I got this error. It says DNS records for this domain name can take up to 72 hours to propagate. Please try it later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a few minutes, and then I'm going to click the verify button again, and hopefully that'll verify, and we'll be ready to rock and roll again. Again, if I click verify, it still tells me it's failed to verify because it doesn't happen instantly, and it is going to take a little bit of time. So due to the power of video, I'm going to just wait a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to verify it again. And I've gone ahead and clicked the verify button again, and it's now registered my domain name. And I can tell because it says here rocketlabs.com. I can make this my primary domain name. Again, it also says verification has succeeded. If I scroll back to Active Directory and I go to my custom domain names, you will see now it says rocketlabs.com. I can go ahead now and make this my primary domain name. So I'm going to click on it and say make primary and say yes. And this is going to make it my primary domain name. I'm going to move over back into Active Directory. And if you notice, it still says that my domain name is .onmicrosoft.com. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick refresh. So I've gone ahead and refreshed. Now it should say rocketlabs.com, and this is now my primary domain name. Again, going back into custom domain names, you can see that everything is verified, and I've got this little tick here, and this tells me that this is my primary domain name. So this covers this video on how to register and add a custom domain name. I'd like to thank you for viewing, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.